Hey guys, quick trigger warning. This is going to be a video about how missing a dose of my Effexor sent me to the emergency room. If you're triggered by suicidal ideation, vomit, sickness, mental health, I really advise you strongly to click away from this video. I'm trying to keep this video as informative as possible, and I do describe my experience quite rawly. So if you're going to be triggered by that, this video is not for you. Please click away and come back for another one. Thanks. Hey guys, it's Bella. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how missing 3 or 2 doses of my medication sent me to the emergency room. This is important for me to cover, I feel anyways, because I didn't realize the severity of missing the doses of this kind of medication just because it had never been explained to me in detail, that it could be so serious to miss this medication. The medication I'm on is venlafaxine, also known as Effexor. I think it's an SSRI, I'm not too sure. It's an anxiety medication. And I'm on a dose of 75 milligrams. They just increased it, so it's now 75 plus 37.5, because they come in 37.5 capsules. And so, yeah. Essentially, I'm gonna run you through the whole story of how I ran out, couldn't get it refilled, and how it affected my body, and I ended up having to go to the emergency room. So, Friday night, I take my medication around 10 p.m. Venlafaxine you're probably supposed to take in the morning, but I just take it with my nighttime meds because I find it easier to take everything at once. It's 10 p.m. I realize, crap, I'm out of medication. So I couldn't get in touch with my family doctor until Monday morning because they're closed for the weekends. I could have left a message, but it wouldn't have reached anyone until Monday morning anyways. So Friday night, I realized I was out, couldn't get in touch with my family doctor. I was fine Saturday all day, was fine Saturday night, woke up Sunday morning, a little bit nauseous, a little bit dizzy, nothing too serious. But Sunday night, I had a really severe anxiety attack. I could feel the anxiety coming on for about an hour and a half. I tried distracting, I tried painting, I tried reading, I tried journaling, I tried showering to try and change my temperature of my body, and nothing was working, nothing was bringing down that anxiety, and I started to have shortness of breath, I was starting to get chills and sweating, which at the time I didn't know was a side effect of missing that medication, because when you miss this medication, the Effexor, it can give you fever-like symptoms, it can make you nauseous, dizzy, vomit, vertigo, all that. It can make you suicidal if you miss it, and it can also heighten your anxiety and increase your reactivity to your emotions. So I didn't know that that was the reason I was feeling suicidal and feeling so scared. Because I didn't know what was happening in my body. So every skill I tried to kind of reduce that anxiety and to calm myself didn't work. Nothing was working. I couldn't breathe. And the panic attack lasted about an hour and a half. There was nothing I could do to stop it. I was trying my best, and I didn't have my sleeping meds too because I was out of all my meds. So I couldn't sleep that night. I fell asleep around 2 in the morning, and then I had to wake up at 7 a.m. with the baby. Sorry, I have notes that I'm going off of just so I kind of don't lose my train of thought, because I'm really bad at that, so if I'm looking down a lot, that's why. Okay, so when I woke up at 7 a.m. with my son, I felt incredibly nauseous because I hadn't eaten the night before. So I was starting to feel sick the night before, starting to feel a little bit nauseous, so I didn't eat dinner. Woke up the next morning, didn't eat breakfast, didn't eat lunch, didn't eat all day because I felt so nauseous and like I couldn't keep anything down. I called the doctors at 8:30 the phone line was beeping on the other end. I couldn't get through to anyone. I couldn't leave a message, so I was panicking, and my day already started off rough because I was so scared that I wouldn't be able to get an appointment. I eventually got through on the phone lines around 8:50, so I had been trying repeatedly to call to get through. Got through at 8:50. They got me a same day appointment for 10:45 a.m. So I just kind of held on all morning. And then when I got to my doctor, I explained my symptoms. I told him I was nauseous, I was dizzy, I felt like I was fighting consciousness at times, like I felt very drowsy, and I was having suicidal ideation. I was thinking about overdosing. I just felt so awful in my body that I wanted to end it. So he got me a script, he refilled all my meds, and I asked him about the Barrett Center. He contacted them. It's a crisis resource. It's a voluntary stay. If they have beds, they'll give you a bed. They'll provide you with any resource you need. So he got me the information on that in case I needed it. He also reminded me that the emergency room's always open if you feel like you can't be safe. I promised him I was going to be safe. So yeah. After there, I go straight to Shoppers to get my meds as soon as I can. Mind you, I'm still dizzy and I'm driving by myself and I'm incredibly scared because I'm so nauseous and I shouldn't have been driving, but I wasn't gonna lug Brantley around for over 2 hours in the car because that would have just been a nightmare for all three of us. So I go to Shoppers. I asked them to fill my script. They said it's gonna take about 30 minutes. I said, okay, I'm going to wait for it. 35 minutes goes by, still nothing. I go up to the counter, ask the lady, hey, I've been waiting for over half an hour. They told me it's going to take maximum half an hour. Can you tell me how much longer it's gonna be? She's walking around panicking for like 10 or 20 minutes. At this point, I'm fighting back tears because I feel so shitty. And I feel so helpless. So after about 10 minutes, she comes back to me and she says, it's gonna be another hour. And I just broke down. I literally just looked at her and said, can my fiance just come pick it up because I can't do this anymore. I've already been waiting. I can't do this anymore. I feel so sick. She's like, yep, that's perfectly fine. So I get in the car and I start screaming. I start screaming the F word. I am shaking with anger and just fear because I don't know what's happening in my body and it just felt horrible. Sorry, garbage truck just went by. So in that little rage, I smashed my head into the steering wheel because I was so frustrated, just out of frustration, because I just needed that feeling to go away. I really shouldn't have been driving, but it was only about a 5-minute drive home, so I drove home still screaming in the car just periodically because I was so frustrated. I got in the door of my house and I just threw all of my stuff on the floor and I started screaming, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I'm so done. I told my boyfriend, like, I couldn't get my meds. You're gonna have to go pick it up when it's ready because I can't do it. He's like, that's fine. I basically dropped to my knees and I just laid on the floor crying, screaming, I can't do this. I want to die. Eventually I kind of picked myself up because he was still dealing with the baby and the baby was starting to freak out because I was freaking out. So I got in the shower. I just sat on the floor of the tub, letting the water run down on me, trying to calm myself down, trying to calm my breathing. I was probably in there for about 20 to 25 minutes until I felt I could manage. Sorry, I was doing this off of memory and now I just don't know where I'm at. When I came out of the shower, about 5 minutes after I came out, I got a text from the pharmacy because I get pharmacy notifications saying that your script is ready, you can come pick it up. I tell my boyfriend, okay, my script's ready, please go pick it up. He's like, can you watch the baby? Because the baby was eating. He was gonna take the baby with him, but Brantley was eating. So I said, it's fine, I'll watch him. Just go get my meds, please. I told him to take my wallet, but he didn't. And I had forgotten that I had taken his card out of his wallet and put it in mine in case I couldn't pay for my meds. So he had left unknowingly without his card because I had it. And he didn't take my wallet, so he didn't have any cards. So when he got to the pharmacy, he didn't have any way to pay for it, had to come home and then go back out again. And I was frustrated because I told him to take my wallet and he didn't. But as soon as he left to go to the pharmacy for the first time, I had gotten the baby cleaned up, got him out of his high chair, he was down on the floor playing, and all of a sudden I feel the need to puke. I run to the bathroom, close the door. I don't know what the baby's doing. The baby could be getting into trouble, but I couldn't do anything. I hovered over the toilet, I was puking. It was just bile that came up, it was yellow. But yeah, I felt a little better after. I came back out. I still haven't eaten anything, mind you, and I wasn't able to eat all day. But I just kind of sat on the couch feeling really defeated. The baby was kind of looking at me like, Mom, what's wrong with you? Eventually, Austin came back with my medication. I took the venlafaxine right away, which is what I knew I was in withdrawal from, because I was looking up the symptoms online. And it said venlafaxine withdrawal can be very serious, and if you go to the emergency room, you need to advocate for yourself, because some nurses will not understand the severity of how bad this withdrawal can be. And it's going to take a while for the venlafaxine to get back into my system, so I was going to be sick for a while. So I laid down in the bedroom for about an hour, just in a dark room with my eyes closed, trying to sleep, because it said online, just try to sleep it off, that's the best thing you can do, because nothing's going to really help. You just kind of have to ride it out. So I laid down for about an hour, and then I felt the urge to puke again. So I got up, ran to the bathroom, puked up bile again, and then I came out in the living room and sat on the couch because I felt like I just didn't want to be alone. I was still so nauseous, so dizzy, and I was starting to get really bad vertigo, so it felt like the world was spinning and I couldn't feel grounded. And I just got to a point after about 5 minutes, I'm like, I think you need to take me to the hospital because I can't ride this out. It feels like there's something seriously wrong in my body and I don't feel okay. And I'm starting to feel suicidal again. I can't deal with this alone. I need to go to the emergency room. So he drove me. We only live about 10 minutes away, luckily, but that car ride, that 10 minutes was the longest 10 minutes of my life. That car ride with my nausea and my vertigo, it was awful. As soon as I got to the emergency room, I regretted not calling an ambulance, but I didn't want to pay the $45 ambulance fee, which is not a lot. I live in Canada. Definitely could be a lot worse, but I don't have the money right now. I didn't want to pay the ambulance fee. Because I didn't go in by ambulance, I was stuck waiting in the emergency room for a really, really long time. I was there for over 8 hours. The wait time on the screen said 5 hours. Everyone was pissed. It was bad. So as soon as I get inside the emergency department, I went in by myself because my boyfriend had to look after our son. I sat on the floor beside registration and I just waited in line, sitting on the floor with my head down in my lap, trying not to puke, trying to feel less nauseous, less vertigo. And eventually I get to the front of the line and it's registration. So she just asked me what's wrong. I said I'm in withdrawal from my medication. I missed 2 or 3 doses and my symptoms are really severe. I feel like there's something wrong with my body. She said, all right, wait for your name to be called, to be triaged. So I go to a corner of the emergency room because all the chairs are full, or almost all of them are full. There's so many people in the emergency department right now. and I just lay on the floor because I felt like I needed to be close to the floor because I was gonna pass out. I couldn't sit up. I felt like I needed to be laying down. So I just laid down on the floor and kind of closed my eyes, and I felt like I was fighting consciousness. I felt like I couldn't stay awake with my eyes open. So yeah, it was bad. Eventually, after I've been laying on the floor for I don't even know how long, a security guard, one of the Paulden security people, came over to me. They said, "Hey, ma'am, would you like a wheelchair?" I said, "No, thank you. I can't even sit up. I feel like I'm gonna pass out." So they just kind of said, okay. They had a nurse come over to me just to see if I was okay. And after about an hour, I was called into triage. So the nurses came over. They did put me in a wheelchair because they needed to wheel me over to triage. They helped me up. And I was kind of like this with my eyes closed because I felt like I couldn't keep my eyes open. As soon as I got into triage, I asked the nurse, I'm like, "Can I just please lay on the floor? I feel like I can't be sitting up right now." And she's like, "No, hon, you have to stay there." She said she was gonna take my blood work. So I asked, she was gonna do it in the wheelchair where I was already slumped over and felt like I was gonna fall to the floor. I asked her, I said, "I've passed out with blood work before, can I please be laid down?" So she let me lay in the bed. As soon as she stuck the needle in, I felt my vision go black. And I just felt an extreme wave of dizziness and nausea. She had the needle in there for quite a while because she had to take like 5 or 6 different vials of blood for different tests. And about halfway through it, I said, "I think I'm gonna puke." She's like, "Just 5 more seconds, hold on for 5 more seconds." And then as soon as she took out the needle, she sat me up and gave me a bowl, and I puked immediately. It was just water that came out of my system though, because I had no food in my system. I literally said to her, "Shit, I'm gonna puke." And she's like, "Just hold on for 5 more seconds," and then sat me up, gave me the bowl. After that little ordeal, they brought me back out to the waiting room. They didn't give me any medication or anything, because it was just triage. My blood pressure was fine, I guess, because they didn't say anything to me. I'm at the end of my notes, so now I'm just going off of memory. But sitting in that waiting room for over 8 hours was hell. It was absolute hell. I was in the wheelchair for about 5 or 6 hours before I really had to go to the bathroom. It was a wheelchair where I couldn't move myself. It was just the ones you had to pull a bar from behind, push it in to be able to push the person. You couldn't move it yourself. So I kind of wobbled my way over. They put me right in front of the registration counter. And I just said, "I really need to go to the bathroom. Can someone get me a wheelchair so I can wheel myself over?" Because at this point I was still dizzy, but not nearly as much. My symptoms have kind of faded over time because it had been 5 hours where I'd just been sitting. She said, "I can't even leave my station," because she was all enclosed in glass. She's like, "I literally am not allowed to leave. I can call someone for you," but a person in the emergency department, like just a patient, had overheard me, and he said, "I'll go get you a wheelchair." So that was very nice of him. He went and got me a wheelchair. I wheeled myself over to the bathroom. And mind you, I was on my period at this time. I was wearing a pad. I didn't think to bring another one because I didn't think I'd be sitting there for 8 hours overall. But I didn't ask for a pad until I was about to leave. So I was sitting in the same bloody pad for the whole time. I should have just asked a woman in the emergency room, but I didn't. Because I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about how shitty I felt. So after sitting in the emergency room for about 7.5 hours, I finally got called in. And they moved me behind the closed doors to the actual emergency department. I was out of the waiting room. And they stuck me in another little makeshift waiting room for about 25 more minutes. and then they told me where my room was gonna be, so I wheeled myself over. Because at this point I still felt like I couldn't stand, but my symptoms were almost gone, I felt. I actually was feeling better in the waiting room at one point, and I went over to the registration counter and I said, hey, I'm feeling a lot better now. Can I go home? She's like, I really advise that you don't, especially if you've gotten blood work done. Like, don't you want to wait for the results? She's like, do you have anything else to be doing? I'm like, yeah, I've got to wake up with my son at 7 a.m. tomorrow. I got to the emergency department around 4:30, mind you, and this was about 10:30, 11:30 p.m. It was just not fun. So when I finally got to my own little room, it was about midnight, 1 a.m. A doctor came in. He brought me over to a chair. He felt my stomach. And he also had me pull my mask down to look at my lips to see how dehydrated I was, because I had told him I haven't eaten anything in over 24 hours. I asked in the waiting room of the emergency department. They couldn't give me water. They couldn't give me anything. I didn't have money for the vending machines. Half the vending machines were broken. Every restaurant was closed, and I saw all these people bringing in their loved ones' food, and it just made me really upset, because I knew I couldn't eat anything, and I couldn't afford to buy anything at the time. So that was also hard. The doctor checked me out. He just recommended IV fluids with an IV medication for an anti-nauseant. I said, sure, that's fine, whatever. They never told me about my blood work or anything. But after about 20 minutes of waiting to get an IV, I just went back up to the doctor and I said, hey, honestly, I don't want to wait for the IV. I just want to go home at this point. He was kind of like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I just want to leave. Because I felt fine enough to go home. I felt like if I just ate and slept, I'd be okay. So he let me leave. He gave me an anti-nauseant that I could take under the tongue and just let it dissolve. On my way out, I asked a nurse, like, could I have a pad, please? Got that. I also asked for water. They gave me a little Dixie cup of water so I could take my nighttime medication. And then I texted my boyfriend. I said, hey, just please come pick me up. So I was able to walk by that point. So I walked myself out of the ER and I stood outside and waited for my boyfriend to get me. When I got home, he had made a pizza, so there was half a pizza left over for me. I ate that. I had a Gatorade and lots of water to try and rehydrate myself because I had been severely dehydrated by that point. And I took a bath because I had been sitting for so long. My leg was cramped, my hip was cramped. My body just felt like shit and I needed a bath. And today is now Wednesday. I still feel dizzy. It's not nearly as bad. But yeah. On my medication bottle, I can now see at the very bottom, it says, do not stop treatment without medical supervision. I just wished my psychiatrist had discussed with me the severity of missing a dose or two, because I would have been a lot more diligent with my medication. I wish I had known that Effexor withdrawal could be so bad. And I just really want to spread awareness for anyone who's on this medication to be careful and know the symptoms of withdrawal from Effexor. That's why when you're stopping this medication, they have to taper you off very, very slowly because the withdrawal can be serious. Look up the symptoms for when you need to go to the emergency room and just advocate for yourself, please. like, if you find yourself in a situation where you do need to go to the emergency department, advocate for how serious a fixer withdrawal could be. Because I didn't realize how bad it could be. It made me suicidal again. And that is a side effect of the withdrawal. So now I'm fine, totally mentally okay, a lot better. These are the little warnings on the side. Let's see if they'll focus. No, it's not gonna focus. It just says take with food, swallow whole, do not open the capsule, may cause drowsiness or dizziness, and do not stop without medical supervision. So that's my story with Effexor withdrawal, or also known as venlafaxine. I hope at least one person found this helpful or informative. But yeah. Anyways, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for listening.